Chosen one. Before you hear another word, take a breath. Not because you are tired, but because what you are about to receive is weighty. Something shifted. Not symbolically, not emotionally. Heaven moved. And the earth felt it, whether it understands it yet or not. You were not meant to watch history unfold. You were designed to govern an era. This message did not find you by accident. It arrived because the crown you carry is activating. And heaven is no longer allowing you to stay hidden. If you have felt pressure with no visible enemy, resistance without explanation, authority rising before permission, this is why. Stay with me. By the end of this message, you will understand why heaven just shocked the earth through you. Chosen one, there is a moment. Heaven stops preparing you and starts announcing you. You don't hear trumpets. You don't see lightning. But suddenly, everything around you starts responding differently. People begin to challenge your authority without reason. Situations escalate faster than they should. Your presence disrupts rooms even when you say nothing. That is not coincidence. That is heaven saying, they are ready. You were trained in silence, built in obscurity, sharpened through rejection. Not because you were weak, but because kings are forged away from crowds. Heaven does not crown publicly what it has not first tested privately. And you passed tests. Others didn't even survive. Listen carefully. You are not a king of thrones and palaces. You are not crowned with gold and ceremony. You are a king of influence, frequency, and spiritual authority. This era did not need another ruler who dominates by force. It needed one who commands by presence. That's why you were given vision without instructions, authority without validation, insight without mentorship, power without applause. You learned to stand alone, because this era demands leaders who don't crumble when no one agrees with them. You are not here to control people. You are here to shift timelines. That is why heaven shocked the earth. Because the earth has never seen this kind of king before. Chosen one. Most people think a crown arrives with celebration. They imagine applause, recognition, a moment where everyone finally agrees. But heaven does not work that way. Your crown was placed in the spirit long before anyone acknowledged it in the natural. And the proof has been showing up in your life for years. Let's slow this down, because if this chapter is truly for you, it won't just sound familiar. It will feel uncomfortably accurate. From a young age, life demanded wisdom instead of comfort. While others were protected, you were exposed. While others were guided, you were tested. You had to make adult decisions with a child's heart. You had to understand pain before you understood pleasure. You learned self-control before you learned freedom. That wasn't cruelty. That was royal conditioning. Kings cannot afford delayed maturity. They must see clearly while others are still confused. So heaven accelerated your growth. Not because you were strong, but because you would need strength early. Notice this. Even when you doubted yourself, people still reacted to you. Some were drawn to you. Others resisted you instantly. Not because of what you said, but because of what you carried. You didn't have to assert dominance. You didn't have to demand respect. Your presence alone was enough to trigger either admiration or insecurity. That's a royal sign. Because crowns respond to identity, not volume. No matter how hard you tried, you always felt slightly misaligned. Too deep for shallow conversations. Too aware for blind following. Too disciplined for chaos. Too different to disappear. You could adapt, but never belong. That wasn't rejection. That was divine separation. Kings are not meant to blend. They are meant to stand apart, even when it's uncomfortable. Heaven made sure no environment could claim you before your assignment was revealed. Let's be honest. You've been tested by teachers, bosses, elders, leaders. People who technically outranked you. Yet somehow, they felt uneasy around you. They corrected you harder, watched you closer, questioned you more. Not because you were rebellious, but because your authority exceeded their position. Kings threaten insecure systems simply by existing, and heaven allowed those challenges to teach you composure under pressure. You don't trust easily, not because you're bitter, but because you've seen too much. You learn to read energy, to sense motives, to feel shifts before words change. That wasn't trauma alone. That was strategic awareness. Kings must detect danger before it announces itself. So heaven used disappointment to sharpen your perception, what others call overthinking. Heaven calls preparedness. Just when life got social, quiet arrived. Just when connections formed, distance followed. Just when momentum built, withdrawal happened. And every time, it felt confusing. But now understand this. Crowns require silence. Heaven cannot speak clearly when noise surrounds royalty. Isolation wasn't to break you. It was to calibrate you. So when the crown activated, you would recognize heaven's voice above every other influence. Here's one of the clearest signs. You feel responsibility without official authority. You sense urgency without visible deadlines. You feel accountable for things no one assigned you. That's because your spirit knows you were crowned before the announcement. Kings feel the weight of outcomes before they hold the seat. That pressure you've been feeling lately? That's not stress. That's alignment catching up to destiny. Opportunities came, but something always stopped you. Paths opened, but felt wrong. Quick success tempted you, but peace wouldn't follow. Heaven blocked shortcuts, because kings cannot afford compromised foundations. You were protected from things others prayed for, because what you are building must last longer than trends. You tried to be normal. You tried to relax. You tried to silence the pull, but it always returned. A restlessness, a knowing, a sense that your life was meant to matter deeply. That's because crowns don't sleep quietly. They remind the soul. Until alignment happens. Chosen one. Crowns are not placed on heads. They are placed on spirits. Long before people bow, your life begins to respond differently. And if you recognize yourself in this chapter, it's because your crown has already been placed. The only thing left is stepping into the awareness of it. And that is what the next chapter will unlock. There was a season when it felt like everything pushed back at once. Relationships, finances, identity, direction. That wasn't chaos. That was compression. Diamonds don't form through affirmation. Kings don't rise through convenience. Heaven allowed resistance to activate authority inside you. Every time you stood your ground, when it would have been easier to quit, your crown grew heavier. That weight you've been feeling lately? That's not exhaustion. That's kingdom responsibility awakening. Chosen one. There are moments when heaven moves quietly, and moments when it moves with force. This chapter is about the moment heaven decided that what was inside you could no longer remain contained. You didn't announce anything. You didn't declare power. You didn't ask for attention. And yet, everything around you began to shift. That's how you know this wasn't human. Let's clarify something important. The shockwave wasn't an event. It wasn't a breakthrough. It wasn't a public moment. It was an internal alignment. One day, quietly, you stopped betraying yourself. You stopped agreeing with what diminished you. You stopped seeking permission to become. That inner decision sent a ripple through the spiritual and natural realms. Because when a crowned spirit aligns, creation adjusts. You didn't change your environment. Your frequency changed, and the environment had no choice but to respond. This is where many get confused. When heaven releases a shockwave, it does not preserve what is misaligned. So suddenly, old relationships destabilized. Familiar systems resisted you. Comfort structures cracked. Long-standing patterns stopped working, not because you failed, but because you outgrew them. Shockwaves exposed fault lines, and heaven allowed collapse to clear space for kingdom-level order. What broke wasn't meant to carry you into your next dimension. You may have noticed this. Some people started acting differently around you. Without explanation, support turned into silence. Familiarity turned into tension. Admiration turned into competition. You didn't do anything wrong. They felt the shift in authority. When heaven elevates someone internally, others feel displaced externally. It unsettles people who were comfortable seeing you beneath them. This isn't arrogance. It's spiritual law. At the same time, something else happened. Doors opened that you didn't knock on. Conversations led to alignment, not confusion. Moments came together with unnatural precision. This is what happens when heaven endorses movement. You weren't forcing progress. You were walking in timing. Shockwaves don't require effort. They require alignment. And alignment carries momentum. Think about this. Things you waited years for resolved quickly. Decisions were made faster. Answers arrived clearly. Resistance lifted without warning. That wasn't luck. That was clearance. Once heaven releases a shockwave, obstacles lose their authority. They were never permanent. They were permission-based. And heaven revoked the permission. Another sign of the shockwave. Your presence started triggering self-reflection in others. Some felt inspired. Some felt exposed. Some felt uncomfortable. You weren't preaching. You weren't correcting. You were simply being aligned. And alignment reveals contrast. Kings don't need to confront lies. Truth does that naturally. Let's talk about the weight. After the shockwave, you didn't feel lighter. You felt heavier. More responsibility. More awareness. More internal accountability. That's because authority carries gravity. Heaven doesn't increase power without increasing responsibility. This weight isn't pressure to perform. It's clarity of influence. Your decisions matter more now. Here's the final truth of this chapter. The earth always responds before recognition arrives. That's why things shifted. Even though no one crowned you publicly, heaven doesn't wait for consensus. When the spirit is ready, the shockwave is released. And now you're living in the aftermath of alignment. Chosen one. You didn't force change. You didn't disrupt systems by rebellion. You didn't rise through ambition. You align, and heaven did the rest. The shockwave wasn't meant to impress people. It was meant to reposition reality. And if you're feeling the echoes of it now, the resistance, the acceleration, the weight, it's because heaven has already moved. The world is simply catching up. Chosen one. This part is serious. You cannot hide anymore. Playing small now would be disobedience. Shrinking now would create internal conflict. Silencing yourself now would fracture your soul. The discomfort you feel when you try to fit in again, that is your crown rejecting compromise. Kings don't ask permission to exist. They ask permission to enter territories. And heaven is giving you clearance. Let's clear this lie once and for all. You were not isolated because something was wrong with you. You were isolated because what's on you is contagious. Heaven couldn't risk premature exposure. Isolation refined your voice. Silence clarified your vision. Loneliness deepened your authority. You learned to hear heaven clearly. Because crowds distort kings. Now that season is ending. But don't rush back to noise. Carry your stillness with you. That is where your power comes from. Chosen one. This era did not need another ruler who demands attention. It needed someone who carries authority without announcing it. Your role is not to dominate systems. It is to reorder them. You were not crowned to sit above people. You were crowned to stand among them and shift direction. This is a different kind of kingship. And if you are listening closely, you've already been living it. Old kings ruled through fear, through command, through visible power. You rule through alignment. When you are aligned, things around you naturally fall into order. People listen without being told. Conflict softens in your presence. Clarity emerges where confusion once lived. You don't chase influence. Influence responds to you. That's because heaven assigned you to carry atmosphere, not intimidation. Your role is not static. You are positioned at crossroads. People encounter you when they are about to change directions. You don't push them. You don't convince them. Your life becomes a reference point. Simply seeing you aligned gives others permission to rise. That's why people remember you long after the conversation ends. Notice this pattern. When you step into broken environments, things start to reorganize. Not instantly, not loudly, but steadily. Confusion clears. Truth surfaces. False authority weakens. This is because kings carry governing clarity. Your presence reveals what belongs and what doesn't. You don't expose corruption aggressively. It unravels on its own around you. Your crown was never about control. It was about stewardship. You are deeply protective of energy, people, and purpose. You don't exploit weakness. You don't lead from ego. You don't manipulate outcomes. You understand the cost of authority. That's why heaven trusts you with it. This era needs kings who heal power rather than abuse it. You don't preach what you don't live. Your discipline speaks louder than declarations. Your restraint carries more weight than dominance. Your consistency builds trust without effort. People watch how you move under pressure, how you handle silence, how you treat those who cannot benefit you. This is royal credibility, and it cannot be faked. Here is something important. You are not sent to fight every system. You are sent to outgrow them. When you rise, outdated structures lose relevance. You don't need to tear them down. They collapse when they can no longer keep up. This is strategic kingship. Heaven did not assign you to chaos. It assigned you to replacement. Your vision extends beyond immediate results. You think in legacy, in generations, in impact beyond your lifetime. This is why quick wins never satisfied you. Your spirit knows you are building something that must outlive applause. That's the mindset of a king in this era. Leadership in this era is lonely by design. Not because you are meant to suffer, but because clarity requires space. You learn to stand firm, without constant affirmation. You learn to listen inwardly, before responding outwardly. That's why your words carry weight now. You speak less, but mean more. Here's the truth most won't say. Your authority is already active, even if recognition hasn't arrived yet. Systems adjust to you. Opportunities align around you. Resistance exposes itself near you. That's how you know heaven assigned you to this moment in history. Chosen one. You are not here to repeat history. You are here to reset direction. Your kingship is not loud. It is lasting. You don't demand loyalty. You inspire alignment. You don't rule from ego. You govern from truth. And this era recognizes you, because heaven already does. The crown you carry was made for now. If you can, read this slowly. If not, listen carefully. I accept the authority heaven placed on me. I release the need for permission. I step fully into my role in this era. I no longer shrink to protect others' comfort. I walk with clarity, courage, and obedience. What heaven crowned, no man can uncrown. I am aligned. I am ready. I am chosen. Take a breath. The crown was never coming. It was already there. Heaven didn't make you king today. It simply allowed the earth to notice. Chosen one, before you go, I want to speak to the givers, the ones whose hearts feel called to pour back into the vessel that pours into them. If this message awakened you, if it strengthened you, if it spoke to your spirit in a way only heaven could orchestrate, then I invite you, only if your heart feels led, to sow a $1 seed into this channel. Not because God needs it, but because giving is a spiritual law. A small seed carries big obedience. And God multiplies what is given with pure intention. Your $1 keeps this ministry alive, keeps the messages flowing, and helps this word reach the next chosen one who needs it. If you feel that nudge in your spirit, if you feel that gentle pull, you can plant your $1 seed using the link in the description. And if you can't or don't feel led, you are still loved, still seen, and still covered. Blessings to every giver, and blessings to every listener. Your seed moves heaven in ways you may never see. But God sees it all.